Hello and welcome to race 6 of the BSR GT Sprint Cup here on BSR TV on YouTube. Thanks for joining us again. Those that were with us for race 5 just a few minutes ago would have seen a really exciting race that was punctuated by a few key incidents that we think potentially could have consequences for the rest of the evening. So hopefully stick with us and we'll have some fun and see what happens. I'm Marcus Narris and I'll be guiding you through the next 25-30 minutes or so of tantrums and triumphs and all things in between. Joining me once again is Jake Cameron. Evening, Jake.
Good evening again, Marcus.
So an interesting race 1. As I said, punctuated by a few key incidents that could have consequences here in race 2. Certainly I'll be keeping an eye out for George Lee Wright from the start, starting in 29th position. Anything you spotted in race 1 that you're going to be keeping an eye out for in this second race, Jake?
I don't know, that George Lee Wright incident, obviously probably the main one I think that everyone that was watching wants to be hearing about and maybe seeing about, but definitely I think Linus Bostrom as well. He didn't show the greatest of pace, but really good effort to make up them 19 spots he actually made up to finish P18, so really good effort from him. It'll be interesting to see if he can make that work for the second race, obviously being on outside row number 1, so very interesting to see, but really good drive. Another few drivers as well. Interesting to watch. Michael Steffen really consistent in the last one, but also a few drivers that got wrecked out in that as well, like Ashley Sutton. He was a cropper in the last one, so really interesting to see what is going to happen in this, because it's all to play for still.
Oh, and it looks like his bad luck's continuing there, Jake. It looks like he's had a bit of a moment there in the warm-up session and taken a few innocent bystanders with him, so he'll be hoping not to repeat that for the race. So with 3 minutes to go in this warm-up session, let's just have a bit of a look at how that race 1 result has affected the championship. It's all changed at the top and it's very close for certainly the first 10-12 positions of the championship. We've had a change of leader. Taking the lead now, a jump of 6 places up into first place in the championship, is Sylvain Pomerade for JCL Sim Racing. He's got 140 points now, and as we go into this 6th round, he'll be looking to hang on to that championship lead. He's going to have to fight off his teammate Alain Tessier, who moves up, remains in 2nd place in the championship. He's now 4 points behind Sylvain Pomerade. Alain sits on 136 points. Ruben Velasco had obviously a great race and jumps 8 places into 3rd place, ahead of Juan Jose Sanchez, his teammate in Playful Bet Over Gaming. Michael Stephen is in 5th place, so as you said, Jake, by virtue of that great result, he's really leapt up the table there. George Lee Wright, who I think it's fair to say had a bit of a shocker in the first race for one reason or another, relinquishes the championship lead and drops all the way down to 6th place, and now finds himself 10 points off of the lead of the championship. John Onkala Harakwai is 7th. Matthew Dalton, who we saw take a great win in race 4 last week, drops a couple of places to 8th place. Oki Stokenberger is 9th. And Linus Bostrom, who we were just speaking to at the end of that first race, and who will start this second race on the front row, starting from 2nd place, rounds out the top 10. So all change at the top, Jake.
Yeah, really big change at the top there. No surprise there to see, obviously, George Wright drop. But our new championship leader, Sylvain Pomerade, I say he really does deserve that. He's had some really good races and good weeks. Not being able to progress that into a race win yet, though. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in this race too at Sebring. But really interesting as well with Sanchez moving up 2 spots. Also, Ruben Velasco, huge jump. Really huge jump. 8 spots. So that's another interesting person. Oki Stokenberger, though, he dropped down 6 spots in the championship, but he also didn't finish that race. He took out an early exit on lap number 2. So he's got it all to make up in race number 2 as well if he wants to go back near the top of the championship. So everything's still to play for with a load of weeks remaining in the championship.
Yep, and it'll be interesting to see if we can go 6 winners for 6 races. Not wanting to copy Formula 1 in any way. This is GT racing, this is racing for men, but we've had 5 different winners in 5 different races, and with the mix-up that the top 20 reverse grid brings, you know, we stand a really good chance of getting a 6th winner in 6 races. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that, as already we're hearing in the warm-up session that George Lee Wright and Michael Stephen have had a bit of a coming together in the warm-up session for this race after their fun and games in the last race. And as I say that, Lee Wright and Wojciech Rabstin get together at the end of that session, so it's certainly going to be spicy as we go into this second race of the evening, Jake.
Really is going to be very, very spicy, but I hope our race administration and race control have said something to George and told him to calm it down a bit, because we don't want him ruining other people's races. It's alright having a feisty battle with Michael Stephan and other people he have a rivalry with, but end of the day, when that starts ruining other people's races, that's when it needs to be settled down, and that's where he needs to be told, stop that, race clean, or you're getting penalties. End of the day, he got one last week. I think he's going to retaliate again in this one, and it's not going to be something we're going to want to see, so watch out for him. I just hope he keeps his head cool.
So we'll keep an eye on that as the cars start to assemble on the grid. Obviously, these are rolling starts in this championship, so the cars will assemble, and when they're all ready, present and correct, and it looks to me like we've got a pretty full grid there of 40 cars ready to go. They'll take one green flag lap, one warm-up lap, the safety car will pull in, and then we'll be racing. As a result of the shake-up of that first race result, we reversed the top 20 positions, so leading them away in a bit of an unusual position for him is Fabio Gonzalez in the number 111 car. On second place, on the right-hand side of the grid, the outside line as they go through turn 1 now, is Linus Brostrom, who we spoke to. Linus having to drive one-handed with a broken arm. He's configured his steering wheel that he can up and down shift on the same side of the wheel, so he's certainly got his work cut out for him. As he pointed out, it's not impossible. He won a round of this championship at Silverstone with that injured arm, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Timo Westendal is third. Nigel Owen, again, a long way up the grid for him, in 4th place in the number 29 car, sorry. 5th place is Matthew Sicoli, ahead of Jason Perry in 6th place. Patrick Bolster is in 7th, with Jose Almeida in 8th. Matt Mallow in 9th, and John Oncala Jaraguay finishes in 10th place. Cars to watch out for. I think it's fair to say Michael Booth and Michael Stevens, starting in 13th and 14th respectively, are going to be worth keeping an eye on, Jake, as is Alain Tessier in 15th place.
Yeah, I reckon there is going to be some really interesting battles going on throughout that 10 to the 20 position drivers. So they're all got the same pace as each other. We saw it in the last one. Everyone running very tight together, really tight, close pace. So it'll be interesting to see. But also out front, this first top 10, obviously they were the slower of the drivers that finished that race. So it'll be interesting to see if their pace can hold off the charges from the likes of Sylvain Pominard, Sanchez, Alain Tessier, Michael Booth and Michael Stephan. It'll be very interesting to see, but I still reckon with very few chances to pass that accidents and incidents could take a big part of this race.
Yeah, and certainly that's something the guys will be wanting to avoid as they make their way around on this pace lap. Fabio Gonzalez will take over from the pace car as they make their way down the end of the long back straight. They're just winding their way now towards Le Mans, and certainly he'll be feeling a little bit nervous, Jake, leading the pack as he does. He becomes the pace car when the pace car pulls in, and it's a situation he's not been in before in this championship.
Yeah, drivers will tend to get nervous when they lead that. You know, you got the butterflies of, do I go this quick? Do I go this quick? Do I slow the field down? Do I stack them up? And, you know, when do I go? It's everything he's got to think about. It's all going to be playing through his head right now as they now come onto the back straight. So he's going to be thinking about, when can I make that break? When can I get that 0.2, 0.3 gap between him and Linus? So it will be very interesting to see what he does. But tend to drivers that have pole for the first time in a big league race like this, they do tend to break under pressure, so it'll be interesting to see if he can hold that pressure out. But a big mention to Timo Westendal, 3rd place in that rough. He's got a lot of work to do to show us if them cars are up to the standard of the BMW.
Okay, so the pace car now comes into the sunset bend, and what we'll see now is the pace car will pull away slightly and pull off the circuit. Fabio Gonzalez leads them around the sunset bend. He's got Linus Brostrom in very, very close company with him as the pace car gets ready to pull off. There goes the pace car. Everybody stacks up, they get close, green flag waves, and away they go. And it looks to me like, we've got a big accident on the front. That looks to me, was it Timo Westendal or one of his teammates maybe? I'll try and work my way back through the field and tell you what happened, but there's an enormous accident there, and it's pretty much cut the field in two. It looks to me like everyone up to Tom Young in 20th place got away safely, and there's another accident going through turn one, maybe a few cars with damage, and the safety car has been thrown, so the safety car is out on circuit. I can see it now. Race director Steve Richardson has said that he will use the safety car, will throw a full course caution if there's a serious incident at the start, and we've certainly had that.
Wow.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen the replay there, but
that all happened in P9. Matt Malone and John Akale Gerari came together. That is a big incident there. They've come together. Then the RUF of Matt Malone has hit the wall. And as he's hit the wall, he's obviously not been able to keep that car to the left of the track. He's then come back in front of the track, gone flipping over into the pit wall, and then the rest of the drivers obviously having nowhere to go. So that's really taken out a big chunk of this field. That's about P9 down to the back, because everyone behind it, they just didn't slow down and they just drove through that, Marcus. So it'll be interesting to see if drivers have got a lot of damage.
Well, it looks to me like everybody on the left-hand side of the grid got away as the initial impact from Matt as he cleared the pit wall, as you correctly say there. A lot of that was going on the right-hand side, so it looks like people got away. That said, we're just getting news from Laura, our director, that George Lee Wright has been involved in an incident following the pace car. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. We'll certainly see if we can have a look and find out what happened and bring that to you. But it's all happening here, and as a result of that huge accident, we find ourselves under the safety car, and I don't know if we can see a replay of what happened with George Lee Wright there, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like he's potentially done something that could be the end of his championship challenge, Jake.
Yeah, just watching that back there, that is very silly. I said before the race we didn't want to see his temper fly, and what was he thinking? What the hell was he thinking? Into turn 7, he literally just came flat out. He didn't brake, he went across the curb and hit Michael. He T-boned him right in the driver's door. George has now been removed from the session, so that will be him out of this race. He then came back onto the track and drove in front of everyone else. I really don't see what the point in that was. Very silly from George.
No, he's absolutely done that on purpose. I've just had a look at it back myself, and he's carrying damage. I guess he got caught up in the initial accident, and it certainly was an accident that involved Matt Malone and a couple of the other cars at the start that saw Matt Malone's RUF vault over the pit wall into the pit lane and roll down the pit lane. Lee Wright is carrying some damage, and he's just, as you say, going down into turn 7 down towards the hairpin. He's just taken the right-hand line and driven all the way down that straight on the outside, located Michael Stevens' car and just hammered him, just T-boned him as Michael Stevens innocently made his way under the safety car, bear in mind, through that turn. So I think that's probably the end of Lee Wright in this championship. That remains to be seen. We'll see if we can get some information from the race director Steve Richardson. He's obviously got his hands full at the moment trying to manage the safety car situation and so on and so forth. So interesting, Jake. Not what you want to see, but hopefully from this point on we can see some great racing and get race 2 back on track.
Yeah, definitely not what you want to see, but let's stop talking about the negatives. You know, we can't give him the limelight. That's what he wants. We've got to talk more about that wreck, really. That was the biggest one we've got or seen in the championship so far. A big accident, though. Matt Malone and John, I'm not even going to pronounce that again, getting it very wrong. So it's really going to shape up this race and shape the championship up there as well. But drivers also having to catch the pace car at the moment, Marcus, and doesn't seem to be catching them up very quickly.
Yeah, and you guys are looking at the cars, the damage. We've got 10 cars in the pits, so Certainly, it looks like those 10 cars were caught up in one of those incidents. Most of them, I would imagine, in that initial incident that involved Giancarlo Jaraquai and Matt Malone. So Fabio Gonzalez makes his way around now, trying to catch up to the safety car. He's leading the train round and not doing it particularly quickly, doing quite a good job of making sure that he holds a steady train and there are no surprises and, nobody leaning on the brakes and nothing that's going to catch anyone out. A really good job done here by Fabio Gonzalez. So positions as they cross the start-finish line to officially begin lap 2 in this 25-minute race. Fabio Gonzalez hangs on to the lead in the number 111 car. He's got Timo Westendal in the RUF right behind him, so another great showing in the second race of the evening from Timo in that RUF, Jake.
Yeah, really, really good performance, but obviously we've not actually done a lap, so we can't tell what sort of pace he's got. But definitely it'll be interesting to see if he can hold that off, because I think we'll only probably have about 15 minutes of the session remaining once we get all this cautions and everything sorted. There's currently 20 minutes on the play clock, so whether it's going to take 5 minutes to do this caution, we'll have to find out. But driver's now just about 4 or 5 turns away from the pace car. The pace car is now going through turn number 14, so they'll have to catch that up, and then I expect we'll see 2 to green, maybe 1 to green once the drivers are on the tail of the pace car. But definitely a lot of retirements in this one, so big championship contenders as well out of this, so you've got to remember that's going to change the top of the championship, as we see our championship leader Sylvain Pominard. He will be out of this race most probably. He sits in the pit box still, but that car looks irreparable. So John Jose Sanchez back out on track, but a lot of damage, crabbing a lot. I don't reckon he'll be able to continue with that. So real big change to the championship this race.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we officially finish another lap, these guys are being very patient behind the safety car and spreading themselves out now. So Gonzalez leads the race as it stands, albeit behind the safety car. As I said, Timo Westendal is in second place, third is Linus Brostrom, fourth is Nigel Owen, fifth is Matthew Sicaldi, Jose Almeida sits in sixth place ahead of Jason Perry, who is in seventh. Giancarlo Jaraquai is running in eighth place, so it looks like he got away with that contact that sent Matt Malone over the pit wall, Jake.
Yeah, he really did get away with that. He managed to just scrape through, but that was a real big impact for them drivers, so we'll have to get some more replays of that on your screen later on at the end of this one.
And very happy to report that Michael Stephen is still running. He's running in 10th place, so it doesn't look to me like he suffered any massive ill effects from the incident with George Lee Wright. I've just been having a look through at the world through the eyes of Michael Stephen. Obviously, one of the advantages of a sim race is that I can have a look through the cockpit, and going down the straights, the steering wheel's in a straight line, so hopefully Jake, he got away with that without significant damage.
Yeah, hopefully he did, so that's very unfortunate for Michael. Obviously the last one we saw in race 1 was just a racing incident, so very unfortunate for Michael. I do feel sorry for him. I know what it's like being on the end of a revenge shot when people haven't checked the replay back or looked at stuff and said what happened, and it's a sad thing to see happen, really, but we'll move on from it and we'll forget about it, and hopefully Michael will still have a good race and be competitive.
Okay, so finally everyone's caught up with the pace car and they're organising themselves side by side, Jake, so that I think that's got to be a sign that we've got one to go under the safety car. We've already lost 10 minutes of this race, just under 10 minutes. The session's showing 16 minutes remaining, so these guys will be dead keen just to get this safety car period over with and just get on with racing.
Yeah, they really will. Especially as, actually, we see some few changes at the top here, actually. Fabio Gonzalez still leads the way, but Timo Westendal moves up into the P2 position. Linus Bostrom drops back into P3. Whether I'm a bit behind there, but I'm sure Linus was running second. Oh, I must be a bit behind. I've just been told by our race director. He is third then. So, yeah, Linus, we did miss that. Obviously, he must have been dropping back over the start-finish line, so it's all got to play for still, but it's not going to be the 25-minute race we promised you. It will only be 15, maybe 13 minutes once they come to complete this lap. Whether the pace car pulls in this time by, we'll have to find out. So Who's your money on now then, Marcus? Now we lost the big contenders.
Well, I still think that the fast guys are sitting in 10th, 11th, 12th place on this restart. We've got Michael Stephen, who is still running, Alain Tessier behind him in 11th place, and sat behind those two is Michael Booth in the RUF, and we know how quick Michael Booth was in that first race. Ruben Velasco, who had a very strong run in race one, is there as well. So those four guys, to me, definitely have the pace to take the win, and if they can work their way through the guys ahead of them, and no disrespect to the guys ahead of them, then with this contracted race, and with them starting just 4 or 5 cars back, if you look at where Michael Stephen will be starting, as it's a double file restart, he'll only be 5 cars back from the lead position, so he'll certainly be looking to take advantage of that. If I had to put money on it, I would probably go for Alain Tessier in the number 78 car, Jake, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I reckon he's really got a strong chance, and that top 11 from Alain Tessier up to our leader Fabio Gonzalez are the only ones without damage. I've just been looking through drivers, and from P12 Michael Booth all the way back down until obviously the end of where our retirements are, they all have damage. So very interesting to see how them damaged cars will be able to run and if they will be at pace. And I think the pace car
pace car's in. They make their way around Sunset Bend and they line up and take the green flag again, and it's Fabio Gonzalez that leads the field away, hopefully for a more successful race this time. And he's got Timo Westendal trying to take the long way around the outside. Linus Bostrom tucks into second place as they go through. Timo Westendal got it far too wide then, and it's given Linus Bostrom a great opportunity there. He's managed to tuck that Movigo machine into second place, so as they go through the kink running onto the back straight through Big Bend for the first time, it's Fabio Gonzalez in the lead from Linus Bostrom. Third place now is Timo Westendal, fourth Nigel Owen, and Matthew Ciccaldi rounds out the top 5. So a great move from Linus Bostrom there, Jake.
Yeah, really great move from there. But as we come under the Mobile 1 Budweiser bridge, though, we see a brilliant move from Jason Perry. Up the inside, there's actually contact there. Jason Perry and Michael Steffen. Big contact there into turn 7. That's where Michael Steffen obviously just got hit by George Wright. So his car's definitely feeling the effects. He's now dropped back to just in front of Michael Booth. So that will be the P11 position. So Michael Steffen really seeing the effects of that damage of that poor incident with George Wright. Really big loss for him. I feel sorry for him. So that car definitely looking competitive from my eyes, Marcus. But as you say, Linus Bostrom, really good move on turn 1. Managed to keep that car planted to the inside. They actually went 3 wide at 1 minute. Nigel Owen, Timo Westendal and Linus Bostrom. Really great racing. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we look through the eyes of Timo Westendal, he looks to be gaining to me on Linus Bostrom, just slightly ahead of him. Be interesting to see how things shake out as they cross the start-finish line for this first racing lap. And we'll get a genuine idea as the timing screen updates of what the real pace of these guys are absolutely like. As I say that, Ruben Velasco is having to defend from Michael Booth. Michael Booth trying to take the long way around the outside line going into Sunset Bend, and Velasco's nailed that inside line, but Booth will certainly try and tuck that roof back up the inside of him. I don't think he's going to get it done this time round, but it's an omen and a warning maybe to Ruben Velasco that Michael Booth is not going to hang around in this short second race, Jake.
No, Ruben Velasco, one of the cars with damage as well, definitely not hanging about. But as we say that, his teammate up front, John Acala Gerari, not hanging about either. He is getting straight past Jose Almeida, so really good racing all around in this second race after that early incident. But some really interesting packs starting to develop with the damaged cars though. Some of them seem to still be on pace actually, Marcus, so that could play a big part into this race. We see Timo Westendal try to move to the outside there, but Nigel Owen actually making a good pass. He's got by into that P3 position now, so BMWs are your top 3. Your RUF has dropped back to P4.
Yeah, absolutely. And these guys, the lap times aren't bad. They're running kind of 2:02s in the first race. They were running certainly in the 1:59s and the 2-minute range. So the guys are finally winding these things, getting up to pace. And Nigel Owen, having got past Timo Westendal now, Nigel Owen in that number 29 car is really started to back that train of cars up behind him. In front of him, getting away now, is Fabio Gonzalez and Linus Bostrom following him through. Nigel Owen now has got Timo Westendal right behind him, and Matthew Ciccaldi right behind him. followed by John Carlo Uruguay, who we saw make that great pass on the last lap. Jose Almeida and Patrick Bolster are right behind those guys, and then there's a small gap, maybe of 2 or 3 tenths of a second, before we see Alain Tessier, Jason Perry and Michael Stephen, who is recovering from that slight tap on the first lap. So things backing up a little bit as they go down the main straight there, the back straight, the Ullman straight, down into Sunset Bend. It's side by side, 2 abreast, and it looks to me like there's no significant changes. It doesn't look to me there, Jake, but certainly they're mixing it up there at the front.
Yeah, there was a major change actually there, Marcus. Timo Westendal lost 2 places as they did come side by side through Sunset Bend. So really interesting racing there. Timo not being able to hold that rough on the outside as he gets really loose there, nearly caused a big one with Jose Almeida. Really interesting racing. He's not being able to hold that rough down at the moment. Whether he's got handling and setup problems, we'll have to find out, but he's really dropped back from that P3, or should I say actually P1 starting position, was it not?
For Timo, no, Timo started, I think, 3rd place this race. Fabio Gonzalez, who started this race at the front, hangs on to that 1st place, and Linus Brostrom, who started alongside him on the front row, is now starting to run him down a little bit. But there's a big gap built up now to Nigel Owen, who's certainly having an effect, and a good spot on that last corner of that last lap. Timo Westendal in the rough is continuing to struggle, and as we say that, it looks like Jose Almeida's trying to go around the outside of Timo Westendal. He's not going to get that done, can't get the cut back through that corner. The exit's far too tight, and Timo just parks it on the apex and says, no thank you very much, no one's coming through here today. But certainly the race breaking up, it looks like we're going to have a race between the first 2 cars for the win there, Jake, and with a little over 8 minutes remaining, it's all to play for, and for this long train of cars fighting over 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th positions.
Yeah, it's going to be a real big battle for that 3rd position that Nigel Owen currently holds there. He's going to have a lot of people charging on the back of him. But as you said, I think we're going to see about 3 packs develop, as we have currently got 2. We're going to have the leading cars out front, and then we're going to have the quick cars, and then we're going to have the damaged ones as we see them side by side again as they come into Sunset Bend. They're all managing to make it through. Timo Westendal losing out to Jose Almeida. Again, he runs really wide through the last bend. He's going to lose another spot, I think, as well, to Patrick Bolster. He runs wide again. Yes, he's lost another spot out to Patrick Bolster, so he's really dropping pace. Alain Tessier will get him on the inside there if he's not careful. He makes the move up the inside. He makes it stick. Timo Westendal just moves to the outside and allows him to go through. So that car definitely not handling as he wishes. If he's got damage or not, we don't know, but really, really struggling in this one, Marcus.
Yeah, Westendal definitely not enjoying his day out in that roof for whatever reason. He seems to be struggling. What I have been very, very impressed with is the pace of Fabio Gonzalez up front. Lap 6 was a very quick lap, 2 minutes, 0.9. As compared to Linus Brostrom behind him, who was running fairly steady, low 201. So it looks to me like with Linus carrying that injury, that broken arm, driving one-handed, it looks to me, Jake, like Fabio Gonzalez, barring any mistakes, has got the pace here on Linus Brostrom, and he'll be delighted that the guys from 3rd place back are all fighting amongst each other. You know, are just going to hold each other up. As I say that, it looks like John Carlo Uruguay is officially wrested 3rd place away from Nigel Owen. Nigel Owen has dropped back to 4th place, so John Carlo Uruguay will be hoping that he can get off down the road after that lead pair, but he certainly doesn't look to be getting away from Nigel Owen to me, Jake.
No, looking at the lap time for Nigel Owen and John Carlo Uruguay, the lap time of Uruguay is a 2:01 and Nigel Owen is a 2:02, so there's a second difference really between them. So really interesting to see how Nigel was actually holding that pack up, whether he'll drop further through that pack and John and Carlo Uruguay will break away from them and gain in on the leaders. We'll have to find out, but definitely I'm really amazed by Fabio Gonzalez's pace as well. Really good pace, 2:09 his lap time compared to Linus Bostrom's 2:01.1. So Linus obviously suffering with that arm injury, but he will be happy. He will not be disappointed with running in that P2 position at the moment. He will be over the moon, because with a broken arm, I bet he's not even expecting to be in the top 5, top 10. So really good race from him.
And it looks like poor old Timo Wessendaal's trials and tribulations continue. He now finds himself just ahead of Ivan Fernandez. He got loose coming around Sunset Bend, that last bend there. As you can probably see, he's just lost it again. So I don't know if he's carrying some damage or he's just overdriving that roof, Jake, but he's really not having a fun time there, and he just continues to drop places hands over fist.
Yeah, really sad start for him, really. Started in that P3 position, but since that caution, obviously, he's not had the pace, so he's really got some setup problems, or he's just got some damage on that car, which is not repairable. But he's really struggling out there. But you got to mention the gap out at the front here, Marcus. 3.4 seconds the last time by between Linus Bostrom and Fabio Gonzalez. So he is definitely the quicker of the drivers. It'll be interesting to see, though, if Linus Bostrom drops back to Giancarlo Uruguay and he can take that P2 position away.
Well, looking at the lap times for the last lap, Linus Bostrom's last lap was a 2:02.5, and Giancarlo Uruguay ran a 2:01.5, which is his fastest lap of the race so far. So certainly he appears to have the pace on Linus Bostrom. Whether he can make up that gap, which is now sitting at about 3. We're sitting at 3 seconds at the start of this lap between Giancarlo Uruguay in third place and Linus Bostrom in second place. We've only got bang on 4 minutes now of this race remaining, so it'll be interesting to see if Uruguay has enough laps to get the job done. As I say that, behind him Matthew Sicaldi and Jose Almeida side by side going around Sunset Bend back onto the start-finish straight. We've got Matthew Sicaldi on the outside, and he gets that very wide, has to get right out the throttle there to avoid going into the tyre wall, and what that's done is it's allowed his teammate Alain Tessier to get by him, and if he's not careful he's going to lose another place to Patrick Bolster. Bolster thinks better of it and holds his line around the outside, so Matthew Sicaldi is going to have I think the inside line going into the next turn, and indeed he does just tuck the nose of that BMW Z4 GT3 up the inside of Patrick Bolster, and he will have the run around this long bend going into Big Bend and down the back straight, and he's able to hold on to that spot. But what he has done is back Patrick Bolster right up there, Jake, into the path of Michael Booth, and I think Michael Booth, Patrick Bolster and Ruben Velasco are going to be swapping places left, right and centre as we go down through the twisty section back out towards the back of the circuit again.
Yeah, Ruben Velasco, though, not giving up. He did drop back there on the exit of turn number 7. Not giving up, though. Michael Booth got the inside line here, though, into turn number 9. He's going to hold that position out. Patrick Bolster really getting a good advantage, as we see, actually, Jose Almeida up front. He's made a spin there, I think. He's now been caught back up by Matthew Silardi. Really interesting racing going on at the front here. That's going to allow, though, Patrick Bolster and the trailing pack of Michael Booth and Ruben Velasco to catch up. We're going to have a 5-man battle here for that 5th position. Really interesting. They're side by side through turn 14. They're going to come down now onto the Almond Straight. This could be some very interesting racing, as we're about to take the white flag in a minute. Fabio Gonzalez, he's now coming through the Sunset Bend. So 1 lap remaining, and we're going to have a 5-way battle for that 5th position. This could be make or break, Marcus.
Yeah, absolutely, and Matthew Sicaldi having to go defensive, exactly like Nigel Owen in front of him, who's having to take in a defensive line to fight off Alain Tessier. Tessier was side by side going down the back straight, and Tessier tries to take the inside line, and he's trying to cut up the inside of Nigel Owen as they run down into turn 1. Tessier thinks better of it and switches back to the outside. That gives the inside line into turn 1 to Nigel Owen, and Owen's going to be able to hang on to this spot as behind him Jose Almeida tries to defend manfully from Matthew Sicaldi. Matthew Sicaldi gets the inside line through turn 1. Patrick Bolster follows him through, and they really hang poor old Jose Almeida out to dry. And if he's not careful, if he can't get back to and he overcooks it, too desperate to get back to the inside there, and forces Patrick Bolster to climb on the brakes, and that's really bottled these guys up. So now we've got Patrick Bolster with Michael Booth right behind him, Ruben Velasco following the pair of them, and Ivan Fernandez and Timo Wessendahl catching them as they come down side by side into the hairpin. It looks to me like Bolster on Booth. Has Bolster got that done? Booth has to run right, puts 2 wheels on the grass, and it looks to me like Bolster's going to go through there.
Really interesting racing there. Really interesting. Definitely seeing some good moves there. I've actually got problems here, so I'm going to hand it back over to you, Marcus. I can't see anything at the moment.
I think we've lost the server, to be honest with you. It looks to me like oh no, we're back. Good. No, it looks like for whatever reason, the race came to a premature end. So we were on the white flag lap, and I'm not sure what's happened there. Whether the server is disconnected or I've just dropped out. But I same as you, Jake. I've lost all visuals, unfortunately.
I've lost. We've lost the end to the race. So you'll just have to have car audio at the moment. Sorry, guys.
So Fabio Gonzalez leads on this last lap, and Linus Brostrom is managing to hold on to that second place by the looks of it. As Fabio Gonzalez takes the checkered flag and wins that race, manages to hang on despite our technical issues right at the back end of that race. Fabio Gonzalez started pole, led all the way through that race, albeit an abbreviated race due to the fun and games we had at the start, and he'll be delighted to take the checkered flag. Linus Brostrom manages, despite that broken arm and having to drive one-handed, steer and shift up and down all with one hand, take second place. So he'll be absolutely delighted to bring that number 71 car home in second place, Jake. He was looking for a... Oh, actually, we're hearing Giancarlo Jaraquai just pit Linus Brostrom crossing the line. You have to excuse us here, guys. We're trying to do this without visuals. I'm being fed information by our race director here. So the official 1-2-3, as we have it, is Fabio Gonzalez from Giancarlo Jaraquai and Linus Brostrom in third place. But Linus will still be delighted with that, Jake. He was looking for a great result in this second race, bearing in mind the trials and tribulations he had in race 1 tonight and last week at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, definitely. He'll be really excited with that. We'll have to get him back down here later on for interviews after we wrap this up and get some post-race in. But really happy for him. He's had not the toughest, well, should I say, not the best at times in the past couple of weeks. He took an early exit in the first race at Watkins Glen. He took another early exit due to his arm, I think, in the second race, and then this week he had a really good race in race number 1, made up 19 positions to come home in 19th, and now he's managed to hold off. Obviously we had that 10-minute yellow flag, so that did give him a big advantage, but I'm sure he'll be very happy, and if my calculations could...
Oh, I think we've lost Jake there as well. It seems like the world of technology is coming to an end. It's decided that it's certainly had enough of me and is deciding to beat me over the head with a shovel. But as Jake was saying, Linus will be delighted with that result. He's a great guy. We heard from him earlier on, and he's somebody that we're lucky enough to speak to fairly regularly. So what we'll do is, as the race director shouts it in my ear, I'll give you the full rundown of the top 10. So first place was Fabio Gonzalez. Second then was Giancarlo Jaraquai. Linus Brostrom was third. Alan Tessier takes fourth place, just ahead of Nigel Owen. Nigel Owen managed to just hold off Matthew Sicaldi, and Matthew Sicaldi takes sixth place from Jose Almeida just behind him. Patrick Bolster takes eighth place. I believe Michael Booth is ninth place, and rounding out the top 10 is Ivan Fernandez, who managed to get past Ruben Velasco on that last lap. So all change at the end of the race there, and we understand you guys hung on to your visuals, and that's great news. You were able to enjoy that race right up to the end, but it certainly mixed things up from a championship perspective, and that result will catapult Linus Brostrom up the championship standings again, adding to the points haul he had of 99 points. That's gonna, with the fun and games of the regular fast guys behind him being taken out by that incident earlier on, that's going to catapult him by my maths up into 4th or 5th place in the championship. So he'll be absolutely delighted with that. Going into next week's race, it's certainly going to give him something to build on, and if Linus can continue to turn in good results when he gets that cast off, he's going to be back to his best and really flying. For me, the big surprise is Alain Tessier in 5th place. I thought Alain would run much better in that second race. Indeed, he had my vote for the race win, starting in the lower reaches of the top 10 there. In terms of championship regulars that we lost as a result of that first lap incident that brought out that long safety car period, we lost a few key drivers to the championship in that mix-up. I'm just looking at the list now, and Juan Jose Sanchez was the real big loser. He ultimately finished this second race of the evening, round 6, all the way back in 31st position, 6 laps down. And Jose Vergara wasn't far behind him. Sylvain Pomerade finished 2 laps down in 25th place. So that incident at the start is really sent ripples through the championship. And as soon as we get the opportunity, we'll let you know how that shakes out for the championship standings. But going into next week's racing, it's all to play for at the top, as this BSR TV GT Sprint Cup in its inaugural season continues to throw up surprise after surprise. We've had 6 rounds, 6 different winners, and certainly I think next week is going to be just as exciting. That's about it for us this evening. Just a couple of things. Just a couple of things for me to remind you of. If you're a fan of very, very close racing and you enjoy what we're doing here at BSR TV, please join us on Thursday night for the BSR Touring Car Championship, which comes this week from Suzuka. Be very, very interesting to watch those guys hammering around that circuit. I think there's 54 of them taking the grid this week, so it'll be very interesting to see those guys racing side by side at Suzuka. Next Monday is the return of the UK and I Skip Barber series, which unusually for the Skip Barber series goes to a roval. Those strange courses that the people in America love, a combination of a road course and an oval. We're at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, taking advantage of their infield course, which includes some of the oval. And for those that joined me last night for that broadcast, that series is always great fun. So we'll be looking forward to that next Monday night. Next week, the BSR GT Sprint Cup returns. Please join us for that. I'll certainly be about. Hopefully, Jake will be with us again next week. Oh, Jake's back. Good, we've got him back. Good to hear you back, Jake. So, yeah, thanks very much for joining us. Just huge thanks to the backroom staff tonight. Massive thanks to Laura Bond, who's been our race director and has been bringing you the pictures that you've continued to see and yells in mine and Jake's ears and tell us what to do and what to say and when we're being bad guys. Steve Richardson, also the race director, who was kept very busy tonight with a couple of incidents, continues to do a cracking job. I've been Marcus Narris, and with me all night has been Jake Cameron. Thanks very much for your company again, Jake.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a brilliant night again, and I look forward to Daytona next week, especially under the lights.
Yep, absolutely, and we'll all see you for the BSR GT Sprint Cup next week from Daytona. Thanks for joining us. Good night.